I don't want to fix software in the middle of this. Okay, that's all fine. Good afternoon. 12:41. So I was supposed to start at 12:30. Those of you who know me, you know the dig. Got a new setup here I'm trying today. Just got back off the road with the woodworking shows. Unfortunately, as you know, they were canceled in Columbus and then Syracuse, which would have been this weekend. So I came on back home. I got home the other night and hurriedly have tried to set things back up to bring you the demonstrations that I was doing at the woodworking shows here live from my little studio in Metter, Georgia. It is already nicely in the upper 80s today down here. I got the AC on. Well, hopefully it'll take care of things. It's a real shame what happened out there, shutting us down, but it's everybody's health that is the most important thing that we need to worry about. And with this coronavirus, well, everybody's in the same boat now. Most people are staying home. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate way to end up having time to work in your shop. I know that we need to be working. We all need to be out working at our jobs and whatnot. So I thought at least I could try and bring you some of the demonstrations. Actually, I'm going to bring you all the demonstrations over the next 3 days that I did out at the shows. So today, I'm going to make a little bowl here. It's called Your First Bowl. This was actually normally done by a local club. A local club member would come and do this demonstration on Friday mornings. And they had a lot of fun, great success. A lot of folks came who had never turned in front of a crowd before, never turned before an audience, and they really enjoyed it. So over there on the wall is all my technical stuff, and I'll have to go over there from time to time and look at the chat boxes, etc., when I can find them, because I am a one-man operation here and just trying to get it all worked out. So your first bowl will be the first thing today, and started at 12:30. But like I said, you know me, I start late. And then at let's see, 12:30, 1:32, 2:30, I'll change things around. I'll come back on, and we'll be stabilizing wood. I'll get the vacuum chamber out and the vacuum pump and the stabilizing resin, and we'll probably stabilize this little piece of wood that I'm going to turn right now. It's a piece of sycamore that's getting kind of punky, and then we're going to mix up some epoxy resin and cast a piece of epoxy in a pressure pot, Spiracraft epoxy. And we're going to put that in the pot for today, and that'll be what we turn tomorrow. So let me go over here and check on the technology for just a minute and see what's going on. See if I can see anything in the different places. See if anybody's around. I have multiple things running here, and I'm trying to get enough windows open on everything so that I can see all the different chat boxes so that I can talk to y'all and answer your questions, because that's what we're really here for, is answering questions today. I don't know if I can get all the windows open or not on everything, but I will try to find my own streams, see if it says that I'm live on here anywhere. And there we go. So there I am. That says that that's me there. Okay, now I need to see the chat. Not that one. I get her figured out here in a minute. Let's see. Working my way down here. See if that's the right one. Let's see. All right, all kinds of people are jumping in here, it looks like. What I'm looking for is to see where I can see you guys. That's my contacts chat. I don't want to see that. That's not the one I want. I'm looking. It's tough when they got the windows all reduced and everything here. There's another. Let me make this window bigger for a moment. Let me jump on out here and see what I can figure out. There we go. All right, I see Jerry. I may just have to jump around, Jerry. You know how this technology stuff is. I try really hard. I got to get this window over here to go away somehow. I'm not sure how to make it go away. Maybe I hit that. Go away. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let's move this over. Oh my gosh. Oh my golly gosh. I'm going to close that one out real quick, and I'm going to jump back in here. I'm jumping over to the YouTube channel to see if I can't find if this is running like it's supposed to be. We're on YouTube. Again, one of these days I'll get a production assistant. Live now. Okay, so there's my live on YouTube. All right, cool beans. All right, says I have to sign in. Great. I'm on the wrong one for that. All right, let's try it over here on another computer. I've only got like 3 of them running here today. And open this up. I know, it's crazy, and I apologize as usual for taking a long time to get places. But we'll get her going. We'll get her going. Let's go over to Spiracraft again on this one. I'll get it figured out yet. You watch. Just give me some time. Do-do-do-do. All right. You watch that one. Okay, I got that back up and live. No matter how much I practice this stuff, it doesn't always come through like I want it to. So I'm going to say hello out here. And I want to open another tab. There we go. There's that one. See, the problem I have, I know you guys don't care, is that this screen is bigger than the TV. And let me open up another one, and I will watch as many of these as I possibly can. Let's go to Facebook, and let's go to my personal page. I love technology, I really do. Even when it's giving me a hard time, I still like it. All right, and I'm on there. All right, let's get that one going. And make that bigger so I can see the chat box. All right, Jackie. So I've got 2 different pages going there. Nice to see you, Jackie. Thank you for popping in. I'm trying to get my technology stuff figured out here if you haven't figured that out yet. Okay, so on this computer I've got these 2, though I have to bounce back and forth. And now I'm going to go over here to YouTube on this computer and jump in here real quick and see if I can't follow the chats over there. And that says I'm live now, so let's go there. And I'm logged into this one. Everything wants you logged in all the time to everything. All right. Go full screen on that. Maybe not that full screen. We're going to have fun turning here in a minute. All right, so on YouTube, I'm going to say hello, just to make sure that that's doing what it's doing. All right, so I've got that screen. I think I got it covered here, sorta. Let me make that like that. If I do this right, I can see both of these over here. if I'm lucky. Otherwise, I need to turn on a whole nother computer, and I don't really want to do that. One more try to the chat box there. We can slide this one back behind. I see what's happening. I'm just going to have to flip back and forth, I can see. I need more stuff, as they say. No, you don't. You just think you do. Okay, well, that's going to have to do. We'll get going. I'll pretend that everything's working all cool. I know that you can see me. I hope you can see me. I do have 3 cameras today. The front one that you see, I've got my little controller set up here so I can change cameras just like that. That's from the right-hand side. This is overhead. I finally got this just before I started coming on. I did the duct tape special over here and mounted up this iPad, which may or may not run out of power. If it does, oh well. I'm just happy to be turning. I want to clean my lenses here real quick. And I'm going to walk through the screen, and I know that's bad. You guys will forgive me so that we can actually get to turning some wood. So what I've got today is a piece of sycamore. This sycamore is about 3 years old. It's been sealed. I cut it 3 years ago for the woodworking shows. And it's been sealed up for a long time. But it still had a lot of moisture in it when I sealed it. And it has spalted inside of the sealer. So that's going to give us an interesting look. It's pretty dry, it's pretty punky, and that's why I'm going to use it for my resin casting here later on today. It'll work, or for the stabilizing and casting seminar. It'll work great for that. It'll fit right in the pot. It's very porous. It sucks up a lot of resin. And I think tomorrow, I might do it today. I may even bring up, when I get off of here for this one, I may run over and get the toaster oven and get all set up with the toaster oven to show you how we cook stuff. Don't hold me to that one. But I'll see if I can get myself that far along in the day. So I have my safety mask, and it's all cleaned up. Ready to go. I took the top off because I wanted a little extra juice on there today. So your first bowl, if you've been a pen turner and you're just getting started, you want to go to bowls now. This guy's a little dusty. I hadn't actually done anything to it, but we'll beat the dust off of it. If you've just been a pen turner doing your pens, you're ready to start turning bowls. It's a nice step to make. Make sure this guy's going to slide. Bowls are a lot of fun. It's usually the next step that people make. That looks like that'll work for me for now. So my blank down here it's pretty small. It's about 7 inches in diameter. It's not perfectly round. It's close. I cut it on the bandsaw just by eye. Now this blank was cut out of the log. And to give you a quick explanation on how this worked, let's assume that this was the end of the log right here. And right in the very center there is an area referred to as the pith. Now the pith we don't really want in our piece of wood. It tends to split and crack. So we'd rather turn it as a face grain bowl than an end grain bowl. If we just cut a chunk off the log, this would be an end grain bowl. And you can do that, but you do run some risk with the pith. So the way this blank was cut was I had taken and drawn lines with the board right down the face of this. Okay? And I took a chainsaw and I came in and I cut right down those lines, right down the face of the log. And I came back to the back side of the log, back in here, and I just cut it all off. And off fell my blanks. Okay? Then I took those and went to the bandsaw and cut them round, and there I have my face grain round blank. Now this does have a little bit of a split right here, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. Here's some of that. Let me go overhead for you. You see that beautiful spalting in there? All right. All right. There we go. So it's really nice, pretty wood. And again, it's really dry. It's been 3 years in the sealer, so it's quite dry. And I would have preferred to turn it green. So what's the difference between turning green and turning dry? Well, when it's green, you turn it once and you leave it oversized. Rule of thumb is about 10% of the diameter we leave for the wall thickness, because being wet, it's going to shrink dramatically. It's going to warp, and then we're going to come back and return it to its finished size, unless, of course, you want a warped bowl. If you want a warped bowl or not an oval bowl, then just turn it to whatever size you want. Or if you're doing a natural edge, a live edge, you can turn it to its finished size, and it'll be fine. Or if you're like Jerry out here, who turns hats, he turns them all green, and he bends them to shape. So he wants it to bend and be flexible. If you don't want to turn it twice, you turn it green, or turn it dry, excuse me. So when you turn it dry, you only have to turn it one time, and it's going to be ready to go. You can turn it, sand it, finish it all in the same day, and have a finished piece. So that's what we have today, is we have a dry piece of wood. Now, if it was green, I would turn it into that rough shape. I would put it in a paper bag and let it sit in the paper bag and dry. A rule of thumb is a year per inch, so it depends on how big your blank was. This one probably wouldn't take really that long because it's pretty small, so probably 4 to 6 months. Just naturally drying in a paper bag, which allows the moisture to come out of the wood, and yet the air doesn't move across the wood, so the wood doesn't split. Now, there are some methods to accelerate that, soaking them in denatured alcohol, ethylene glycol, things like that, to go in, replace the water in the cells, and help the piece dry faster. I've never personally been in that big a hurry, so I just turn them green, throw them in a paper bag, write the date on them, and kind of forget about them. So that's what we're going to do today. Mounting. How are we going to mount this on the lathe? Okay, well, we got a couple of choices on mounting on a lathe. The two main choices that we have are to use a faceplate. And let me get this over here and go overhead for you. So you see the faceplate has 8 holes in it, and it's countersunk on the top. That's one method. The other method is a worm screw. Make sure you can see that real well. This happens to be an Easywood Tools worm screw. It is smaller on one end and got a larger shaft on the other. These are great because they mount right in your chuck, right in the jaws of your chuck, which I don't have pulled out yet. And if you don't like to take your chuck off your lathe, you say you have the little set screw in the back so that it can't inadvertently come loose, then worm screws are great. They're great in harder woods. One thing you need to be careful with a worm screw, and this wood qualifies, if the wood is soft, if it's not very strong, it's easy for the threads to never really take hold. It'll just kind of pull the threads out of a softer wood. It threads down against your chuck jaws, which is the equivalent surface area of the faceplate. But when you try and tighten it up, it just keeps on turning. It just starts pulling the threads out. Now, even if you run the tailstock with the live center in, which I would, if I was using it, I'm going to use it anyway, the tailstock. You may, when you take the tailstock off to start to do something, it may be loose and you wouldn't know it. So on this particular piece of wood, a safer bet is going to be to use the faceplate. All right? Now I'm going to go over here real quick and see if there's any kind of questions in anything that I'm looking for. If anybody's here. Good afternoon, Chris. Nice to see you. Like I say, I'm just kind of trying to run back and forth here and look at the various chat boxes and trying to figure out how to scroll down on them, which is a little tricky. It doesn't seem to give me a scroll bar. Let me make this one bigger for a second, real quick. And check and make sure I haven't missed anything, because I don't want to miss anybody's questions. Hey, Mary Alice, now that I scroll down, I see you're there. I hope you're doing well out there in California. I understand you guys have been mandatory locked into the house. It's a crazy time out there, I know. I appreciate you coming by today. Like I say, just coming back off the road, trying to get myself all set back up in here and jumping around on these screens. The first class we're doing, if you weren't here, Mary Alice, is just a simple first bowl. And let me get that to where I can scroll this one down. The fun's going to be here. Well, it's all fun. It's all fun. Don't get me wrong. But after a bit, about 2:30, I'm going to fire up the resin and the stabilizing, and we'll have a lot of fun. Okay, so looks like things are well in hand over there. So I'll come back over here. Let me jump back up here. I love having my controller here now. That's such a nice handy thing. For mounting the faceplate, we want to mount it with screws. Come here. Come here. And what I have are 8, I'll go back overhead for you, 8 number 10 screws. And these are 1.25 inch, not super long. I grabbed these because I was going to turn a piece of poplar that was more like a platter, but it was so far out around that I chose not to. So number 10 screws. Now why do we choose number 10? Well, they're stronger than a number 8, and the head on a number 10 fits very well into the faceplate. Okay, a number 8 is going to drop down inside there a little bit. Now I do have one kind of a cardinal rule, and I think most people agree with this. Don't ever use drywall screws. They don't have the strength. They don't have the shear strength. Excuse my itch. They will snap off, and they're Phillips head. You break them off in there, you got to dig them out. They're a pain in the neck, or the Phillips head will strip. Now these screws might look like a Phillips head right here. If that looks like a Phillips head, it's not. There is a Phillips to it, but it's also a square drive, and so that's what I'm going to use. These are a SPAX screw. Now, had I cut this blank on my circle jig, I would have a little hole right in the center. Go back over here. I would have a hole right in the center from when I had cut it on the bandsaw. I use a Carter Products circle cutter for cutting my blanks. Normally, I was in a hurry. I cut this one by hand. And I would take a little center finder with a little pin. You can make your own, or Carter Products has one. It goes right down in the center. It lines your piece right up on your blank. So I'm going to look for which side of this is the smoothest. Neither of them are perfect. So I don't think it really much matters. So we'll just go with this side right here. We'll move that over, get this out of the way. I'm also running on a fresh computer. I don't think that we're going to have any buffering issues anymore, I hope. I was concerned. They said that the internet was being overloaded with everybody being at home right now. So I hope that's not the case. I'll go back to over front here. I hope the bandwidth holds up. I did finally, when I was on the road, I picked up a fresh computer to stream with, and so I'm using it out here as well. Oh, that's what I really got it for, is out here. But you can be sure, because I really enjoy setting these streams up, that at other live events, hint, hint, the AAW, Spiracraft has a full four-space booth, 20 by 20 grid, and we'll be there. Everything willing with the virus issues and all that. And I'll be live streaming from the AAW in the Spiracraft booth. I'll have Sorby Tools will be with me. Michael Roper, Daryl Jones. We're going to have a lot of fun in Louisville, Kentucky in June, provided they don't shut it down. Okay, you notice I have my drill clutched so that I don't over tighten the screws, especially in this soft wood. Don't want to have those screws strip out, okay? Now we just mount this guy right here with threader on. Now this is a small little guy. So one thing to keep in mind, don't over tighten this. If you tighten this too much now, it's going to get smaller. And if it gets smaller and it's going to tighten up on its own as it goes, you'll have a really hard time taking it back off of the lathe, okay? Even though I have 8 screws in here, I am going to bring my tailstock up with my live center. Let it find its center. Run that in. Things are a little sticky today, but that's okay. All right. So the next thing we want to determine is what's our speed going to be? How fast are we going to turn this? Well, we want to turn the piece of wood as fast as we can safely. The faster we can turn the piece of wood when we're cutting with the tools, the better the tools will cut. But we don't know what that is. Now, this is a little teeny piece. It doesn't have much mass to it. But I like to always start down at 0, make sure everything's out of the way. And I'll go overhead. You can see that both ways, how that's bouncing around. And you see the ghost image here, or out here on the front. So that's how much out around it is. And we can go to the middle one here, if you can see that too. So I'm looking for a speed that doesn't vibrate the lathe and is still safe. And because this piece is so small, looks like about 800, 875. That'll be fine for this nice little small piece. A lot of pieces, a lot of big pieces. When I start a piece that's 30-something inches in diameter and on this lathe, I'll have the headstock turned sideways and it'll be rolling out here. And I may start at 150, 200 RPMs. I slowly increase the speed as I get the piece round and in balance. The closer it gets to in balance, the faster it can go. Now, one thing that might throw you just a little bit, so you have a piece of wood, you get it all turned perfectly round, and your lathe is still shaking and vibrating. Well, it's possible, especially if it's green, that if it was laying out in the field or out in the yard or whatever, it may be out of balance by moisture content. So if that's the case, you're just going to have to keep the speed slow. You just can't do anything about that. I used to mount 500 pounds of weight on the lathe because I heard about that's what you should do when I first started turning. And I learned over time, one, I got tired of taking the weight on and off of the lathe. But I learned that if I just started at a slower speed, that's all good. I don't need that super high speed just to start. This lathe isn't even bolted down. It's just sitting here, sitting on the floor. It's not going to go anywhere. This lathe, this speed is fine. There are some formulas out there that will help you come up with a safe speed. They don't take into account things like that being out of balance and whatnot. That's always something to keep in mind. And I'm going to jump over here real quick again and look and see if I see anything going on that I need to answer to. I'd like to try and keep up. Let me make this one big real quick. Make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, looks like I'm good there. All right, we'll reduce that one back down. Come on, computer. Don't be weird. Don't go strange on me now. All right. And we'll slide this one out of the way. I got windows open all over the place. And come over here, take a quick look. Make this one bigger. See, when I expand it so I can scroll, I can't see the I can't see the little scroll bar on the side. But that's all good. That's all good. And that takes care of that. And let me check on YouTube. Hey, Dick Gerard's over here on YouTube. Good to see you, Dick. I hope you're doing well up there. I know you've been in and out. I hope you're doing well. Obviously, I'm off the road. Hope the feed is coming through good. Take a quick sip of water here. All right, let's get back to work. So we found our safe speed, and we're ready to go. Now I have two types of tools I can choose from in this day and age. We have high-speed steel tools, and we have carbide tools. Now, if you're not familiar with the difference, if you're new to the bowl turning, especially, or if you're new to turning in general, high-speed steel tools. Traditional bowl gouge, spindle gouge, skews, scrapers, parting tools, all kinds of things. High-speed steel been around forever and ever and ever. Been the standard. It's what a lot of us learned on to turn with. These give you all kinds of flexibility, control, variety of what you can do with it, how you shape the tools. My number one favorite tool in the world still is a 1/2-inch bowl gouge, regardless of all the tools that I got over here on this rack. If I had to be stranded with one tool, it would probably be the 1/2-inch bowl gouge. There's different qualities of steel, different levels of steel. The metallurgy keeps getting improved all the time. The price is commensurate with the quality of the steel, so you can start to spend $100 or so, 80 to 100 on a piece of steel for your bowl gouge, but that piece of steel will last you for years and years and years if you take care of it and use it properly. So you have lots of control, but it takes a little bit to learn this tool. The learning curve is a bit steeper. You can get what they call catches, and it's scary at first. It's a little intimidating, but with time, you're really will be happy with this. The other style of tools, and I'll just talk about these as well quickly, carbide insert tool. Now this tool, and I'm going to go to overhead and try and get that up in there, going the right way, Brad. You can see there's a little screw right in the middle of that cutter. This cutter is replaceable. All right. So these tools come in three basic shapes. They come in a round cutter, they come in a square style cutter, and they come in a diamond style cutter, often referred to as a finisher, a rougher, and a detailer. Just call them the round tool, the square tool, and the pointy tool. It works out a lot better for you. The reason being that the round tool, which is named the finisher, this is from Easy Wood Tools, is used as a finishing tool. It's also used as, it can be used as a roughing tool. It can be used as a shaping and sculpting tool. Very versatile. This is kind of your bowl gouge in the carbide world of tools. The square tool, which we have again now here in the orange handle, well, it comes with a square cutter, perfectly square, 90-degree corners, but it also has a radius cutter. So when used with the radius cutter, it's actually a finishing tool. So calling it the rougher doesn't really work because you can finish with it as well. So square tool. The diamond tool, diamond shaped tool, detail tool, it's just a pointy tool. You can do details with it. I use it to make my tenons. It's real handy. You don't use it as much as you do your other carbide tools, but it works well. It goes into lots of teeny places. And a recent advent to the carbide tools are negative rake carbide cutters, which are fantastic for turning the resins. So when I turn resin tomorrow, I'll be using these with these negative rake cutters on them. It's night and day how easy they cut. And the carbide stays sharp for a very long time. So you don't have to, you don't sharpen it, resharpen them anyway. You don't need to. You rotate the cutter until you've used up all the good edges, and then you can replace it with a fresh new one. You can, if you choose, freshen them up on a diamond card, just like this. Show you there, a little diamond card. This is a 300, 600. You notice I just carry it right in my back pocket. I use it also on my high-speed steel tools. So either kind of tool, whichever you, if you already have your tools within your set, if not, and you're just getting started, probably the carbide tools are going to be the easiest to learn with to get started, get up and going without some of the frustration. You'll have a little bit more fun as you get going. But I strongly encourage you over time to go out and buy a bowl gouge and buy a spindle gouge and start to learn to use them. Now, when you do buy a high-speed steel tool, yes, you're going to have to sharpen it. So you're going to invest in either a slow-speed grinder with a set of wheels, or like the Sorby Pro Edge belt sander, which gives you a flat profile instead of a hollow grind that you get with a round wheel. So you're going to have an investment in your sharpening between the grinders, the belts, the wheels, some jig systems that make it easier, like the Wolverine one-way sharpening jig. You're going to spend $400 or $500 on the sharpening setup. You can start with the economy style stones, the Norton stones, but a CBN wheel looks like diamond, but it's not. Carbon boron nitrate, I believe it is. I may pronounce that wrong. That is going to be a wheel that you're going to buy once. You'll probably buy 2 grits, depending on what you think your needs are, and you'll probably have those wheels forever. You don't have to clean them. You don't have to dress them. They don't get hot. The tools run cooler. It's a more expensive start, but they will last you a long time, and you won't have to clean them up. So today, what I'm going to do, just to show you, is I'm going to use both styles of tools. I'll use the high-speed steel tools, and I'll use the carbide tools. I'll try to kind of use them in each step here through this little bowl piece, just to show you it doesn't. You can do everything with either style tool. I don't have a personal preference. I have a rack of both, and I actually use all of them all the time. Whichever one suits the need that I have the best at the moment, that's the one I'm going to use. Whatever does, and some days it's one tool, some days it's another. I don't have a preference. Whichever does the job the best for me that day is the tool that I'm going to use. Okay, and I've got them all at my disposal. I could use anything I want, and I use whatever works best. So, a couple other things here, real quick. Our tool rest. We want to start with our tool rest, and we always make sure our tool rest is not hitting. Let me go to overhead. That's the end shot, excuse me. Go to the overhead, and you can see my fingers right here in the back of the shot. So I just make sure that, say, my fingers will clear through there, okay? Anytime you move your tool rest around, always spin your piece before you turn the lathe back on, okay? And I want you to see something here on the end shot. You can see right here, this hump, actually right in here more. So you can see how kind of out of round this is. So we'll get that cleaned up as we go. Okay, so I've got my tool rest the right distance, but is it the right height? Well, it depends on which tool I'm using. I'm going to start with the carbide tool, just to start there. And the rougher / square tool, these carbide tools, we want to run them at the center axis of the lathe. And let me take you to that. So set your tool right to the very center axis of the lathe, and how about that? It is actually right at the center axis of the lathe. These tools are designed to run, go back over here, dead flat. You don't run them with the handle down. You don't run them with the handle up. You don't roll the tool one way or the other. They have a square shaft, most of them, at least the EasyWood tools do. So they're super easy to use. When we switch over to the high-speed steel tool, we'll be lowering the tool rest and we'll be changing the way we hold the tool. But these tools run perfectly flat on the wood. That's what makes them so easy. Okay? All right. I'm so used to this demonstration, and one, a lot of noise, and two, people after asking questions. And it's kind of strange to be in here talking, doing a woodworking show demonstration, and having it be quiet. But at least I don't have table saws and band saws going off around me. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. I'll do about half of this piece with the the carbide tool, and I'm going to go to the overhead, so you will see me come from the left and put on my face mask. They call it my Jason mask. And I never asked. I guess the sound is okay because nobody's screaming on there that the sound isn't too good. So I guess we're all good there. All right. See, here's my Jason mask. I have other masks around. This is my favorite. I prefer it. Yes, it exposes my forehead a little bit, but it's lightweight, comfortable, easy to work with. I have my controls. Jump back over here again. Here's my controls on this particular lathe. I have a box which I can move around. I have my start, my stop, my speed. Okay, good deal. So you don't need a death grip on the tool. No, you don't have to have this. Just 2 fingers will work. And that ghost image that you see, and I'll change cameras for you in a second here. I'm just using half the cutter, taking a nice light cut, and I'm going to cut till that ghost image is gone. Which in this case is a little pretty far, because it's pretty far out around. Okay? You can't quite see enough there yet, so let me take another cut. So now we should be able to see it. Let me hit stop. So you can see where we're cutting here. And another thing I didn't mention, and I'm going to go to the overhead on this spalting that I was talking about. If I wasn't talking to you on the microphone, I would be wearing a respirator because this is a fungus. This is a white wood rot fungus. And this is very dry and dusty. Okay? So you can breathe in that fungus and that goes in your lungs and you can have respiratory issues from that. So you want to be aware of what you're turning. Now you may also notice I'm on overhead. Yep. I have not finished cutting all the way around, so it's not quite perfectly round. Now, I'm not worried about that. Let me show you here on the end. You can see this section right in here, I actually didn't cut it yet. I don't need to make it perfectly round because I'm going to shape the piece anyway. So if I'm close, that's fine. If it had been perfectly round, that's all good too. So let's start up again here. We'll take a little bit more off of here. And I'm just using a half a cutter. Now one thing I'm going to do while I'm here is I want to clean up this bottom end. So I want to know where the true bottom is. And since I'm here with this tool, and it's the one I would use, that just helps me to know where this nice flat bottom is, okay? So let's make a couple more cuts up here. Let's go to the overhead for you. So you can watch the cuts being made down. And now you can see the difference of where we're cutting here. Now if I wanted to, I could actually clean this up. I can cut laterally as well with these carbide cutters. Okay. All four sides are the same on those. Okay. We'll stop here for a second. Jump back overhead. So we've got it halfway around, halfway across. We're going to switch over to the bowl gouge now. And I've got a couple of them here. I don't know if they're both, like I say, this is just coming off the road. These were in the toolbox that have not been to the grinder yet. So I'm going to take my little diamond card here, and I'm going to look in here real quick and see if I have some lapping fluid floating around. I did before. It may be over in the other shop. And if not, I'll just use it dry. Okay. So instead of going to the grinder right now and grinding this tool, I'm just going to take my diamond card. I'm going to use the 300 grit side, and I'm just going to let it rub on the top of the cutting edge and the bottom of the bevel. And I'm just going to freshen that edge up. Think of it as maintaining it. So I will get a nice, fresh, sharp edge without having to go grind that steel away. Now, when I first started turning, and for quite a number of years, actually, I didn't use these. I wasn't really aware. Nobody had taught me about them. And I would go through a half-inch bowl gouge about every 3 months. Now, I turned all day, every day. I was selling craft shows and in galleries and things of that nature. And I would just go over to the grinder and grind that steel away. And now I'll just come back in here and clean this edge up and save a whole lot of money. My tools last a whole lot longer, okay? And if I can get this up in here, I'm going to go to the overhead and see if I can get that where you can see the focus is set for 3 feet, so it may not work. But if you can see that little, if I can get the right angle, see that little difference in the sheen right there on the very cutting edge? So that's where it has rehoned that, and it's ready to go, okay? All right. So let's check and see real quick if we have any questions over here. Mary Alice, you say you're locking yourself in your shop? There's nothing wrong with that. Let me check on this screen, make this one bigger here and check around. I mean, I got all day here, so like you say, we're not really going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere these days. All right, and that's on the Spiracraft page. Let me reduce that. So Jerry, you'll be at AAW. That's great. Come visit. We'll hang out and we'll tell lies and stories and all that stuff. Let me check this other screen. Hey, it looks good. My golly, look here. Chuck Jordan's in here. I'm not sure when you came in, Chuck. Chuck is an old buddy of mine from high school. My high school get in trouble buddy. Let's see who else is on here. Let me open the screen up. I can scroll around. Rich is in here. Jim Breckman. James Kramer. Jean Perret. I think I pronounced it right. Mr. Lang is in here, if he's still here. You're at home? Yes, Jim, I'm at home. I am at home at the studio. I got in Tuesday night from Columbus. I went to Easywood on Monday, and then I went and visited my family on Tuesday or Monday night, and I came home on Tuesday. So, Rich, how did your stream go? I actually have to admit I ran off and grabbed a burrito to have some lunch. And Mr. Chuck Jordan, if you're still in here, it's good to see you, my old friend. It's been a long time. We'll have to catch up on the phone here before too terribly long. All right, let's see what else is going over on YouTube. Reduce this back down. And see if I got anything shaking here. All right. Pretty quiet out there. If you all got questions, I know this is kind of a 101. When we played this afternoon with the stabilizing and resin, you might have a few more questions, especially the way I do things. So let's see where I'm at. I'm on that one. Let's go back over here. I'm so happy to have my little controller here now. I'm going to switch over to that bowl gouge that I just carried somewhere. I do this all the time. I carry stuff off, and then I sharpen it up, and then I lay it back down and lose my mind. That's the one I had. I must be getting old. Not really. So I'll take the mask back on, and I'll have you guys know. Let me see. I know this is just for fun. In the overhead, you can see... I was in my flip-flops. I don't know if you can see down there by the floor. I went and put shoes on. You can't see it. I'm too zoomed in. Anyway, I wanted to be safety conscious and not be out here in my flip-flops. Well, I wanted to be in my flip-flops, but I wouldn't do that to you. Okay, so I need to drop my tool rest down a little bit. Now, this one doesn't go down very far in this Colt, so I just drop it all the way down. Now, this tool, I'm not going to hold dead level or flat. I'm going to hold it at an angle. To start with, for what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the very tip of the tool. Here, I'll just be using the very tip. This whole area, where's my pointer? Let me go there. There we go. So I'll just be using the tip of the tool. This area below the cutting edge, all down in here, all this shiny, that's called the bevel. And then this is the very bottom of your, and this is your heel. Well, normally when we're cutting with the tip or the wings, we are supporting that cutting edge with this bevel section down in here. But for this cut, I'm just going to use the tip, and it won't actually be supporting it. But it'll be okay, because we're just taking it to round. We're not doing anything else. And let's go there for you. We'll start there, and you'll see the angle of the tool. If you can see that, the tool is at an angle now. And I'm just taking the very tip and coming in. We get the same net result. We take the piece down to round. Let me jump over here to overhead for you. Okay, so now that I've got it round, I can go ahead and turn the tool over on its side. So I'll just let it sit this up here. I can turn it over to its side, and I can start to cut wood and let that bevel support the cut. Can't see much there. Let's go here. As I start to come around the bottom of the piece, I'll show you here. So now, oh, ambulance is running through here, fire trucks. The bevel is riding along and supporting that cut. And if I go up here, you can see that. So if I was to have the tool like this, I don't know if you can see that. You can see the gap in here. If I was to have the tool like that, I could easily get a catch, and it would catch the tool and dig in. So with the tool riding on that bevel, that doesn't happen. Now we're going to make a gripping point back here, so I'm not going to go too far at the moment. I'm going to stop the lathe for a second. I want to move my tool rest. Whenever I move my tool rest, I always stop the lathe. Okay, we want to be safe. Now, let's see. I'm going to make one more pass here before I clean up this top, because I need to know where my top is so I can shape my piece. And we might roll this guy over today. Who knows? I might put a little curve in the top. But I'm going to go back to my square tool, my carbide tool, and clean up that top edge, because you can see it's a mess. I got so many buttons here now, I don't know whether I should hit the on button for the lathe or change cameras on the controller. Such a wonderful problem to have. Oh, that's a negative rake. The negative rake cutters do not work all that great on softer woods. Okay, so now I know where my top is, nice and clean. I know where my bottom roughly is. Now a tool that I haven't used is a round carbide tool. Now I'm going to pull one down off the rack here. And I'm going to show you. So this is bigger. This is a full size. I normally use the mid size, but this mid size has the negative rate cutter on it right now. So I'm just going to use this one, and this will allow us. We can shape with this. I like to think of it as a sculpting tool, as much as anything. Get that down to center, and we'll just do a little more cleanup work with this. I keep trying to turn the lathe on over here now. Let me give you overhead. Now I'm over accentuating. See these curves in here? Almost like a cove. That's what's the nature of a round cutter. Unless you really take your time. And that's why on the square style carbide tool we use that to clean things up. Okay? Now I said I was thinking about rolling this over, and I think I am. So I want to make this little teeny bowl curve back around, just to give it a fun little shape. So I'm going to do that first. And I'm not going to make the perfect final shape yet because I haven't made my gripping point, my tenon down here on the bottom. So I'm not going to make it all that perfect, but I just want to show you these different style of cuts. If I use the radius style tool, I have one on here. I only have one in negative rake, it looks like. But I'll do it anyway. This square looking tool, but it's not because of the curve, it lets me cut in the center section of it and smooth out my cuts. Okay? So those round kind of depressions like right in here that I was talking about, we can take those away. Okay? I keep trying to turn the lathe off over there now. We can take those away with that tool. Now this is still really rough because the next thing we want to do is we want to make our tenon. And we're going to come down here and we're going to take our tailstock away. Got it tight enough, Brad? Now on the bottom, I'm going to clean it up. First thing I do. And then we have two choices on the bottom. On the bottom of a piece, we can make either a recess that sticks up proud, so your bowl comes up and goes up, or you can have a recess that goes down in. Okay. There's pros and cons to both. I happen to be, I refer to myself as a tenon guy. Let me take this off for a second and get a little fresh air. With a tenon, you have a piece sticks out, extra piece of wood sticking off the bottom. Bound to have something laying around here. I still got a faceplate on it. Let's see what else we got around here. I got tons of stuff over here in the corner. To get this up against the black. Oh, I have to do it in that one. There you go. You can see the tenon there off the end. Okay. There you go. So that's our tenon, that's our gripping point. Now we can also make a recess, same diameter, but goes inside the piece if we want to. With the tenons, why do I personally like them? I like them because if I decided I wanted to put a little lift in a piece, I have a little bit of extra wood there for that. It also gives me a little extra margin for error when I'm taking the inside out if I was to overcut. Downside of using a tenon is if the wood isn't strong or strong enough, and say maybe your tool catches when you're working on it somewhere else on the inside or whatever, you run the risk of snapping that tenon and having that piece fly off, and you get to kind of start over again. That's the biggest downside to a tenon. Recesses, they're great in that when you turn them, cut the recess, and you put your jaws of your chuck in there and expand to hold it, whereas on a tenon you compress. You expand out and it holds it, and when you are done with the piece, there's no tenon to get rid of. With a tenon, we have to go through an extra step, which we'll do here today. So the recess is great because you can decorate in there, you can put your name in there, all kinds of things. People like to do that. The one thing to be careful with the recesses is if you take away too much wood, from the recess area and you expand out your jaws, you can snap the piece if it's real thin. So something to be aware of there. So I'm going to make a tenon on this. We'll clean that up real quick. And then we'll be able to, once I have the tenon on, I'll make my final outside shape and I'll clean it up. Now I'm not going to sand this guy today. But we'll make it nice and clean. So I am going to go ahead and put it in stabilizing resin later on today. And then we're going to turn it again, okay? So let's go down to the end shot. Looks like you can see that okay. Put my power back up here. We're just going to clean this up. All right, it's nice and clean. Now I've got my calipers here. And I've got a set of calipers. Right buttons, Brad. I've got a set of calipers that are already set to match the jaws of my chuck. All right. So that's 2 3/8, which is a little bit big, but I don't feel like changing it today. That'll be fine. It's a bigger grip. And you can make patterns, go, no go. I just use these as my reference point. I've had these forever and ever. Makes it real easy. So what I like to do, just come in and make a light cut. That gives me a starting point. And you can see that's pretty much right what I want, right on the first shot, give or take. And I'll explain this more in a minute. But we want our tenon to be just a little bit bigger than the perfect circle of our jaws, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So if it doesn't want to push straight in with a square cutter, and you can do this with the bowl gouge too, and I'll show you. We can come sideways. Okay. One of the reasons I like to use this square cutter now is that the length of this cutter square is the depth of the tenon should be for my jaws and my chuck, so that this tenon does not touch the bottom of the jaws. I don't want it to touch the bottom of the jaws. I want the jaws to sit up on the surface here, and I want this to be hanging free in the bottom but being gripped on the side. Okay. Now if I wanted to use my bowl gouge, I'd use a little 1/4 inch bowl gouge. And this one has got the wings ground back. Let's see if you can see that very well. It's one style I always used for making my tenons. And I come right down the side, or I can come across. And with my wings ground way back on a little 1/4 inch gouge, I can actually come across and then let that wing make my flat side. Okay? So regardless of what style tools you have, okay, what's important is that this section right in here be flat. All right? This right in here needs to be flat. Now I'm going to check this again with my carbide tool because that's my reference point these days. I need to go a little bit more. Okay, with my tool nice and parallel to the lathe of the bed, I know that this is nice and true and flat. And I'm right up by the back corner. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure this very bottom of the tenon is slightly concave, because I don't want to take a chance of that having a dome in it. If it has a dome in it, if there's a dome in the bottom of your tenon here, and you may not notice it, and I've only got a 1/16 of an inch or so to play with here, if there's a dome, it's going to touch on the bottom. So I just take my tool shaft and I lay it right across there after I made that cut, and if I see a little bit of daylight right there, I'm all good. I don't know if you can see the daylight in the camera, but I'm set. So the next thing I have left to do is I have to put a dovetail profile on this, because my jaws have a dovetail. So that's where the little detail tool comes in, the little pointy guy. And wrong button, bud. So I'll put about a 10-degree dovetail on here. This guy is super handy for that. And I'm going to mark the very center, just because I'm here, just for a point of reference for turning it around later. Okay? So now I have my dead flat section here. And I'm overhead, so let me go here. I have my dead flat section right in here. I have my dovetail on my tenon. This is concave. I got my center marked. So my tenon is now ready. Okay? Now, this extra space I have here, that allows me to change the shape again. If I want to go ahead and refine the shape on this, which I think I will, now I know exactly where my bottom is and I know exactly where my top is. And from there. So I know exactly where the bottom and the top are. So that's the next thing we'll do, is we'll reshape this guy a little bit. But I'm going to take a quick check over here again to see if there's any kind of questions that anybody might be having. Excuse the cough. That wood is a little bit dry and dusty. Let's see what's going on here. I'm glad the air conditioner is doing its job out here today. I see my dad has joined. Hello, Dad. Hope you're doing well. Yep, I'm working, Pop. I'm working. And let's check over here on this feed. Come here. See if there's any kind of questions. Come here. Cooperate. Do what you're supposed to. Let's take a quick look at this one. They make a chat box that will show all your chat boxes at once. Mr. Lang, WT, always enjoyed your demos in Milwaukee. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. Always enjoy coming to Milwaukee. We have found the Milwaukee Burger Company, I believe it is, to be our favorite place to eat. That is, I don't know if Michael Lang is still in here, the staff of Spiracraft. They give me a hard time for saying that. Okay, so quick sip of water. What's the time look like? 1:48. Okay, wrap this guy up here pretty soon. Let me finish shaping this. I'm going to go back to my bowl gouge. Now I haven't sharpened that little one up, but I'm going to use this big one. I keep trying to turn this. Now I got this new button thing over here. I keep trying to turn the lathe on. With the remote. Okay. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Now, I'm getting a little bit of tear out because this wood is punky and it's right there in the end grain, which is where you're going to get it. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this guy up. Somebody changed it. I think Jerry changed the belts on this. It'll turn 3,500 now. I don't want that fast. All right. And I'll probably switch over to my little gouge. I'm going to hone this little gouge real quick. See where I'm going to go to this one for you. Just give that a quick little clean up. Always hold the gouge still, the tool still, and move card, little diamond card. All right, that'll clean that up just a little bit. It's always good to freshly sharpen your tool before your final cuts. You'll get the cleanest cut you're going to get when you do that. And I'll probably reshape this a little bit more one more time when we get it turned around here, which we're about to do right now. Okay, so I'm going to leave it just like that. Let's go ahead and turn this guy around. We'll put it into a chuck. All right. Now see how much smaller this has gotten now than when we started? All right. So I may be hard pressed. I may go find the pliers. No, I'm okay. Take that off. It's a cute little bowl, isn't it? Cute little first bowl. When you're starting with this is your first bowl, don't start out with a big old giant piece of wood. Start out small, start out easy. You don't need to go crazy with it. Enjoy it, have lots of fun. You'll make a lot of bowls over time. Trust me. After a while you might get tired of making bowls. But it's always rewarding, especially in change up the shape. Like this one, I'm putting this little recurve on it, so it's going to have a different top. It's not going to be just an open top bowl. Okay, so that makes it a little more interesting for me. All right, now I'm gonna get my chuck out here. Today I'm using the Easywood chuck from Easywood Tools. This is their quick change chuck. The jaws just pop in. There's no screws or anything that goes on it. Okay. So when the chuck goes on, lock. We just thread that in there. Snug it up. Don't try and kill it. Don't make it super, super, super tight. Now, if I didn't mess this up, this will grab perfectly. And I want to show you what I'm talking about this perfect circle. And sometimes I see people who should know better, seems like. Okay, so that is already just happens to be, I didn't do anything, I didn't set it up. This little gap that you see here, about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more, is what this was going to be tightened to. All right. Now, the perfect circle obviously would be when it's closed all the way down. All right. What you don't want to do is have your jaw open like that. Your jaw's open. And if your tendon is touching, that's the size of your tendon and your jaws are open 1/2, 3/4 of an inch, you're just touching on the corners of each of these jaws. And you don't have a very good grip. You're not getting contact all the way around. So we pop that guy in there. I go to overhead for you. You'll see that I have just about 1/8, maybe a little bit of broader. I always give it a hand turn before I snug it down. There's 2 pin gears on your chuck. Use them both. Go around a couple times. Because remember, this is all that's holding it now. Okay. Now, like I said, I want to make a recurve in this. I'm gonna have this curve back around. I'm gonna curve this top back over. So I'll clean this up. I'm gonna use that round cutter again from the carbide world. Okay. Because I like them. I like them for shaping and sculpting. So wherever I put it, it's down here. Now, whenever I've changed the piece over, I always turn the speed all the way back down just to be safe. And then I turn it back on. Make sure that nothing's weird, nothing's crazy. And I'll just turn this at about 1200, 1300 now. I don't need to go screaming fast. All right. Because if I knock it out of the chuck, I get to start all over, and that's no good. Okay. So let's go to the end shot for you. Okay, so that cleans up the face. Right, you can still see the screw holes in there and all that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come and make my shape. That's why I left this sharp edge here and I didn't worry about it when I was cutting on the outside, because I knew I was going to come back and work on this. Okay. Go overhead. Back that up just a little bit to give myself some more room to work. Now I'll start right at that line, and I'm going to roll this around. Alright, that gives me my basic shape. Now I'm going to come in here with my little bowl gouge and clean that up. See how we're just making a real fine little cut there. Let me go to the end camera for you. I'll make that cut again. Very light, fine cut. I like to think of it as sanding with the tool. Notice I just have a couple of fingers on there. Okay, no big death grip or anything. Let's see how that looks. So that looks fine. Okay, I'm going to come down, make a pass down the back side here. And then we'll start to take the inside out of our little bowl. Let me go to the overhead for you there. Clean the chips out of the way. I sure do like that remote. Those of you who hang with me in Monday Methods know how I used to always have to walk over there and change that. Now I've got it right here on the lathe. So I think I'll put a little something right in here like that. Just because. I'll put a little profile on the bottom. Just to give it a little character. Okay. Now I've got a hump right here, so I need to come back and get that hump out. Now I'm looking at the outside of it. I'm looking over here, and I'm looking at a gray floor, so it's not too bad because I can see the contrast between this white wood and that gray floor. So I take out that hump, just smooth that out, and we'll blend that back in. Okay. Alright, so that's not bad. I can live with all that because, like I said, we're going to stabilize this guy in resin, so we're going to end up turning it again. Okay, Now, I'll go one more round here before I check for questions. End of the piece. Looks like I need to raise that camera maybe, or lower that camera down just a fuzz. About like that. So the screw holes, they dictate at least the minimum opening for me. Again, I can use any of my tools. I'm going to go ahead and start with the bowl gouge, just because I want to. Remember where those screw holes are? I'm just going to kind of hold that there. Now that has set my little recurve, my space that I want. I got to move my controls there because they're hitting my tool. If I can get them over there. Now I have two choices. This is really small, so I can keep working my way like this with the bowl gouge from the outside in. I can also turn the bowl gouge around and use the very tip and draw out, or I can literally drill myself a hole down in here. Make sure I'm on the right one. And I'm just using the tip and a little bit of the wing. Then I can turn back around and come in. And take that wood away. Now, if I don't have high-speed steel tools, but I do have carbide tools, I can come in with the round style cutter. All right. And just take that wood away. Oh, I see over there, I got my head in the way. So what I'm going to do is work straight in, leaving this solid for a minute. I'm going to work just past there. Okay. Now I'll switch tools to, it's referred to as a hollowing tool. This is Easywood Tools number 3 full-size hauler. It's got, you see the curve in the neck? Let me go over here. Got the curve in the neck. That's going to allow me to reach around this corner. Now there's a couple different sizes of these. This is the biggest one, and I've got a little one here. This one has a bigger cutter than this one, so just depends on what I'm doing. This is my favorite. It's got the bigger, thicker shaft. Do I need to back up here so that the solid part is on the tool rest? You don't want to be in here. Okay, you want to make sure you have, in this tool, you want to make sure you have that section sitting on the tool. And I'm going to back up just a little teeny bit more. All right. And this will allow me to reach in around that corner. So probably the best view is going to be that end shot again. Now that vibration you heard is because I cut over here on this end of the tool. I always want to cut right here on the very tip facing out. I'm trying to keep my head out of this, so let me get back here. And then I roll the tool around so that I don't cut on the end, or on the face out there. Okay. Makes this real quick and easy. And I'll switch to the overhead so you can see how that tool is moving. So I start in here, roll the tool around, alright, that's how we do that. Stop and check our wall thickness. Not too bad right in there. A little bit more in the right at the largest point. So let me go back over here for you. Keep my head out of the way. I don't know if you can hear that high pitch. So that tells me that wall is nice and thin right there. Roll the tool around. Stop and check it. As you get closer to your wall thickness, stop and check more often. Okay. A little bit more right at the thickest point there. Right in through here. It's the point where we are always afraid to take too much for fear that we're going to cut through it. Roll the tool around, blend that in. Okay. Check that. Okay. The rest of that we'll get with the straight tool. Let me check and make sure there's no questions coming in over there real quick. Hope everybody's having a nice afternoon out there. I know I'm having fun. I always have fun when I'm out in the shop turning. And let's see, anything there? Come on down here. What grit hone am I using, Mr. Lang? I'm using a 300-600, and I tend to use the 300 side. Okay. And on this page, let's see what we got going. Do-do-do-do. Do I consider the shape in terms of the golden mean, Mr. Jim Brinkman? You know, I used to. I kind of don't anymore, to be quite honest. The golden mean, the golden rule, always makes for a wonderful shape. I guess, being honest, I just tend to make a shape that, as I'm making it, it looks pleasing, and sometimes I'm off, and that's all right. I definitely don't get out and do the math on it to that degree. Not on pieces like this, anyway. You know, this piece here, it's just kind of small, so I'm not that worried about it. But it definitely, using the golden mean, the golden rule, will always get you wrong computer with the finger there, Brad. Will always get you a shape that is pleasing to the eye. There is no question about that. No question about that. And let me look over here at YouTube and see what's shaking. If anything's going on over there. Looks like that's all good. Just for fun, since this is a new system. So the computer in the past, I would have been overloading the processor by about 15 or 20%, and now this one is just idling along, running the stream out, and I've got 3 tabs open. Amazing what bigger processors and more RAM and a better video card will do for you. Okay, let's finish busting down through this guy real quick, and then we'll take the tenon off of it. All right, because then it's going to be time for me to get ready to do resin here before too terrible long. I might have to go get something cold to drink. and make the switch over. All right, so what are we going in here with? Well, the only round tool I've got is this big one, so I guess I'll use it for carbide. Let's see, I better stay out of the way. Sorry about my head getting in there. See that little nub that forms right there? You always get rid of that. Keep getting my head in there. I knew the reason I had the camera in a different place before I remounted it. Okay, let's do something a little bit different here. Let's say you don't have those and say all you have are bowl gouges, right? Well, how are we going to get in there? Well, what I'm going to do on this lathe, yeah, I could slide it to the end, but I'm just going to rotate it a little bit. Plus, it'll help keep my head out of the way. Turn out a little bit like that. And I believe I can get right back in there. Okay, so with got buttons everywhere here. With back to a bowl gouge, and I'm actually using the 5/8. Jump inside of here. See if I'm not getting in the camera in the way. Now this has a long grind on it, makes it a little bit hard to make that turn in the bottom. I can switch over to one. Don't know if it's sharp or not. A little 1/4 inch one you can use is so here's a little 1/4 inch bowl gouge, and stop. See what I can show it to you on. It's going to show the best. Maybe the overhead. It's got a very, very short bevel. Yeah, we'll just put it in my hand. Very, very short bevel. Virtually traditional grind. And the heel's also ground away. Okay. And it'll let me work around that corner pretty well. All right. Just don't know if it's sharp or not. Because I don't have such a big tool and a big bevel to get in the way. I can come right on around the bottom here. Some people refer to them as a bottom feeder. I know Mike Mahoney has a tool with Carter and Son Tool Works they call a bottom feeder. So I'm pretty far over the tool rest. That's why you're hearing the vibration. Okay. One thing I could do to remedy that, if I wanted to, which would be drop a tool, I can come in here with a bowl scraper. Okay. And I can just clean that up with that bowl scraper right there in the very bottom. All right. I think I'll make one pass down the wall just for fun with this. I can keep myself out of the camera. And that cleaned that up just fine. Okay, cool beans. All right, so now we got to get the tenon off the bottom of this guy. We'll turn this back around. So, how are we going to get rid of the tenon, right? We've got a tenon stuck on here. Well, we've got a couple of choices. Get this out of the way. We have our tenon left on here. We could make what's referred to as a jam chuck, where we turn a piece of wood that fits right inside this hole and holds it tight. That's one way. We could put a set of bowl jaws, which I happen to have a sample of here. These are the big ones. Bowl jaws, which on an easy chuck, you just pop out a jaw, pop in the bowl jaws, adjust the bumpers. In this case, we would be trying to fit the bumpers inside of this. But this piece is pretty small and a little fragile, actually, because it's so soft. So I think I'm going to go with my usual favorite method, which is I'm going to find a little scrap of wood, and it's also the cheapest method. I may have to dig around here to find something since I haven't been here in a while, but let me look real quick. And we're just going to turn this piece around and do what I call a reverse chuck, which doesn't require much of anything other than a scrap of wood. Of course, when I need a scrap of wood, I probably don't have one, but let's see what's over here in the box. It will go down inside that piece too. Not 100% prepared for my scrap of wood part of this. Oh yeah. So, oh, by the way, those of you who hang out with me on Monday Methods, the Saturn bowl is still waiting for completion. I need to do the other side, back side. So Monday Methods will be starting back up. Probably not this Monday. Give me a break. I'm gonna take a little break from the road and turn in. But Monday Methods is coming back, and we're going to be finishing this Saturn bowl and lots of other things. So what I've done is I just stole half of a lidded box, right? Lower in the windowsill, the lidded box. All I need is the bottom portion, all right? And that's what's going to go inside my piece here. So I'm going to put this in the chuck. It's never been sanded or really finished, so I'm not worried about it. It was handy. Let's see if this will do what I want. Perfect. So this will give me friction on the bottom of my piece here, all right? I don't need to hold this real tight, so I'm not going to mar it up or anything. That's all good just like that. This will give me friction. Now I could put had I sanded this, I could put a pad in here. Let me go here for you. So this little line, could give me, make a mark. Again, I'm not worried about it only if it spins. So that just goes right on there. And we're going to use friction and the tailstock. And we're going to turn this tenon down to a little cone and have it gone without having to do anything special. Remember that little, when I marked that little hole right there? You can see it or not? Well, that's what that's for. So we can just put that right in that little center mark. Except I missed the hole, Brad. There we go. Now I could also use a cone on here, which might not be a bad idea on this piece. So these are little rubber chucky cones. They thread onto a live center if the end's not sticking out too far. Back that up. Oh, you're looking at the wrong one. So I put a little rubber chucky cone on there. Now that cone should go right in the middle of that still. Okay. And all I need is enough pressure for my tailstock so that this doesn't spin or slide. And so I don't have very much pressure under, not much at all. And that is tight right now, okay? Now I may have to tighten it up if it tries to move. But this is a great way to do these, to get rid of your tenon. I didn't figure it out. I learned it from Jimmy Clues when I first started turning and watching his videos. That is where I got the idea from, or learned how to do this. Jimmy's been one of my people that I have learned so much from and followed. Okay, let's see. Choice of tools could be anything except for negative rakes. We'll start with our little bowl gouge. So it doesn't have to turn perfectly true, but it's close. Put our power back up here, slow that down a little bit. And I'll just start to cut this away. Change camera, Brad. Go to overhead. There we go. Now this is off by just a fuzz, but nobody will ever know that it's sitting that much out of level. Also, let's go to the end camera for you. You can see I'm just coming across, cleaning this up, making it slightly concave. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the little detail tool in carbide. Just so you can see you can work with whatever you've got. Now here's the trick to this. The stronger the wood, the smaller you can make the little cone, and the less you have to sand the nub away. If the wood is weak, only got 10% left on that, okay. If the wood is weak, don't make a real small teeny cone point down there, because it'll break before you're ready. If it's strong, you can make one really small. And back to the overhead for you real quick. Okay, I'm going to stop there, because it's making sounds like it wants to start to break. Okay. take everything out of the way here. And so you can see we have just that little teeny, get the right angle here, figure upside down and backwards. There we go, I'll get it yet. Just that little teeny cone right there, okay? And that's all you need. And then we just set her upside down, and hopefully you have a chisel somewhere. Hopefully. I'm still digging, I'm still finding stuff. It's all in toolboxes and in the van and out of the warehouses. See if I have a chisel in here. There we go. And don't know where my mallet is. So, that's probably the best one to show you. It's just from the front there. Just going with the grain. Just chops that right off. Okay. Then that's all we've got. Is that little teeny nub right there? We can just pare that away. Who ground his chisel? All right. And there we go. There's our little piece. Like I say, now we're going to I'm in that over it. We're going to go ahead and stabilize this guy here in just a little bit, so it'll have a different look to it. Go up here. All right. So did I run long? Yeah, it's 2:30. I'm supposed to start something here. Give me about 15, let's say 20 minutes. 10 to 3. 10 to 3 I'll be back. And I'll be doing stabilizing and resin casting. So that'll be fun. Of course, I got a late start, so I'm not going to worry about the fact that I'm started late. It's a nice day. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me for this first one. This first in the series of, I think there's 10 demonstrations I'll be doing. I've been doing at the woodworking shows. I really appreciate everybody coming out and hanging with me. Again, I'm going to turn off the feeds and jump right back on them at about 10 to 3. And I'll get this changed around, get the table out, get the lathe back behind me, get the resin out and all that good stuff. Hope you come back and join me. And then later this afternoon, if you have to miss this next one, I'll be doing a little teeny hollowing, small hollow form with Easy Wood tools and their hollowers. So that'll be fun too. All right. Thanks again, everybody. I'm going to take a quick break, get switched around, and I will see you guys in about 20 minutes. Thanks. Okay, we are back. We are back. Yes, yes. It says live video interrupted, but I bet you we're back. All right. We are back. Indeed we are. See, we're back in the YouTube land. Now, if I can get Facebook to reload, then everything will be good. Let's set it all up again. Pain in the neck. So, you folks over on YouTube, it looks like I have to turn Facebook back on, but we are in the process thereof. So, let me see where I gotta go to do that. All right. See if I reload these pages. First time I've started the streams back over again. I was hoping they would just kick right back up. Now it says I don't have any internet. That can't be. Of course, Facebook could have crashed on us this afternoon. Because everything else looks good. And that's all good there. Let me see what's going on here. All right, we'll just clear that out and we'll just start over with that one. So, if you're over on YouTube, let's see, everything crashed. The internet went down. No, that one's still there, so. Well, if you're hearing me, I'm working on it here. It looks like that there's some internet problems going on. If you're on YouTube, let me know. So it says there's 4 folks watching this on YouTube, because it looks like Facebook has gone down here all of a sudden. If you are on YouTube and you're watching this, just give me a holler, let me know that it's coming through there. Okay. Since it's kind of quiet out here. And let me go to, that's the old one. So I know that's old. Let's see here as we work to figure this out from behind the magic curtains. It says I'm live now. And we'll hit play on that. Looks like that crashed too. Like everything crashed. End the stream.